Check this out.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the campus, Arizona State University, on Blaze Radio. And now, it's time. Here's Weston DeWitt.
Aha! Yes, it is! Welcome to the latest edition of the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay here on Blaze Radio and BlazeRadioOnline.com. We are live in the Bill Austin Radio Studios here in downtown Phoenix. Thank you for starting your Monday off here with us on a high note. Eliav Gabay, producer extraordinaire, my co-host. How you doing, my brother? How you doing?
I'm doing well. It was a very busy weekend. Today is about remembering some things, and
Yes.
and while it's gonna be a great show, let's talk about a little bit of 9/11.
Yes. So today, as I mentioned off the top, it is September 11th, 2017 today. So we just want to make sure before we get started and talk some football, to just remember what today is about here. Everybody at the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay and Blaze Radio in general, we just especially sending our thoughts with those who lost loved ones, friends, family, any kind of people that they knew or cared about on September 11th, 2001. Now, Eliav, I don't have a lot of recollection of what happened that day. It was in 2001. I think I was about 7 years old or something like that. But I just remember one of the things I remember the most about 9/11 that kind of comes to my mind is when Mike Piazza hit that home run in the 7th or 8th inning when the Mets played the first game back since 9/11 at Shea Stadium. And when Piazza hit the home run, fans just went berserk and started chanting USA all around the world. And just the feeling of coming together like that is what I remember the most after 9/11. As I mentioned, I just don't remember the day itself, but I especially just want to, upon myself, my thoughts and prayers are with those who lost loved ones and friends and anybody they cared about today.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add besides, respect also to all the service
Yes.
men and women who were there, the policemen, the firefighters, EMTs, everyone who was out there helping and lost their lives as well, trying to help. So respect them, of course. But when it comes down to it, I think it's made us stronger as a nation.
It has.
Ultimately, that's not the way you want to become stronger as a nation necessarily, but the fact is it has, which is, you don't want to fall apart in those scenarios. You want to, build up and be stronger. And I think our country has done that.
I agree.
So, yeah, so that's all.
I also, before we get into football, I was at the 9/11 memorial site when we went for the IBS Awards back in March.
Me too. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I remember just seeing all of the names on that list with the
Yeah.
fountain, and I've lost track. I don't know off the top of my head how many lives were lost, but just seeing all the names and just the raw emotion in the museum, especially. Like I went into the museum and saw what happened on the news when it happened and seeing what CNN was talking about, Fox, what they were talking about when it happened and everything. Just gut-wrenching. And sure, I don't know anybody personally or have friends that lost their lives that day, but it doesn't matter. When you have something of that magnitude, when two airplanes crash into a building and lost so many lives and affected us so much as a nation, because that's definitely undoubtedly the thing in this country that's hurt us probably the most, of a catastrophic atrocity, dare we say. It just, for me, it's a very sad day, but it's also a day to be thankful of the one time where we ultimately came together, like you said. And so
moving
that's just
forward,
the way it is, yeah.
As together, moving
Exactly.
forward as one.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
So let's, again, thoughts and prayers with those friends, family, loved ones they lost on September 11th. So
Let's talk about America's game.
Yes, let's talk about some football. Let's start with the Arizona Cardinals against the Detroit Lions. So the Detroit Lions defeated the Cardinals 35-23 at Ford Field. A very sluggish, very poorish, sloppy, what a very bad game overall played by the Arizona Cardinals. And it was not all a very, very sloppy first half. I watched the first half from start to finish, and Stafford threw a pick six. Justin Bethel. It looked good for the Cardinals off the top. Looked really good.
10-zip.
Yep. But Carson Palmer, look, man, Carson Palmer.
He doesn't look.
27 of 48 passing, 269 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, a QBR of 28. David Johnson too going down.
See,
it's
that
not
was the
good.
biggest storyline to me out of this entire game.
Yeah,
because Cardinals, okay, you might lose the first game, whatever, but if David Johnson is hurt for an unforeseen amount of time, the Cardinals' season is done.
Yeah.
It really is. I don't think it wasn't that bad, right?
It was a wrist injury.
Yeah, but how long did they say? How long?
I mean, Chris Mortensen tweeted out. It said it could potentially be. It just depends on the extent of the MRI. They're doing that today,
right?
And it could potentially be a few weeks or half the season, is what Mortensen said.
That's right. I did see that. Yeah. No, see, that's the big storyline out of this. If I'm the Cardinals, it is what it is. You might lose the first game, and against a decent team in the Lions, with Matthew Stafford running the show, earning his money.
Yes.
Definitely delivering in the fourth quarter again. But I mean, what's going on with this team,
dude?
Weston? I mean, it's not even. It's only the first game, so we shouldn't freak out or anything. But the fact is, it feels like last season.
It does. But before I answer your question, Matthew Stafford looked really bad in that first half, and fans were booing. It looked like he hadn't earned his money. But 20 points scored by the Lions in the fourth quarter. We always forget that Matthew Stafford is Mr. Fourth Quarter, and that's why he got his money in the first place.
And that's where he earns his money every single game.
He definitely didn't earn it making the playoffs and winning playoff games, but that's okay. That's another subject for another day. And also, by the way, you mentioned you don't want to overanalyze too much. This is like this Monday. The Monday after week 1, everybody around the world is overreacting to week 1. That's just the way it is. That's the way things are going to be. But to answer your question, Eliav, the Cardinals, I think it just rests on the shoulders of Carson Palmer. This guy had all the expectations heaped on his shoulders last year especially, and then coming in the first game against the Patriots without Rob Gronkowski, without Tom Brady, and they still lost that game. That set the precedence for the entire year. And for me, this game yesterday, Larry Fitzgerald was targeted 13 times, 6 receptions for 74 yards, but the defense, it just doesn't look the same without Calais Campbell, Eliav. And Calais Campbell, by the way, putting up 3.5 sacks for his new team, the Jaguars, against the Texans. Go figure. And, man, 309 total yards of offense, that's good. That's not so bad. But 367 yards allowed to Detroit. The defense cannot do that. Something James Betcher has to change up some kind of defensive scheme. I don't know if it's playing man-on-man coverage or 3 deep. I don't know what James Betcher has to do, but something in the defense has to change. And then it all circles back to what I first said, Eliav, Carson Palmer. This guy, father time appears to be coming up for him, and it's just the way it is.
It came for him during the playoffs 2 years ago. Where they barely survived
that Green Bay game?
Yeah. They barely survived the Green Bay game, and if it wasn't for Larry Fitzgerald, they wouldn't have. It was not. I don't give Carson Palmer almost any credit, honestly, for that game. Besides the last couple plays where he threw across his body and did a couple heroics and then found Fitzgerald every time. But I honestly think that it's just, you saw in that playoffs that he wasn't any better. No. He wasn't any better in the postseason, and they got smacked after that Green Bay game. And against a team that was relentless at the time in the Panthers. But then moving forward into the next season, I mean, that season was just. It was done before. It felt like it was over when it was halfway through even. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You could feel it. It was just not going to happen when there were such high hopes going into it, and then now you have a chance for basically your last season with Larry Fitzgerald, and you still have David Johnson. You still have a solid group with the corners and safeties.
Yes, you got great secondary.
So. This is their chance. It's not over, of course. It's not even. There's only the first game, right? But at the same time, I think there's more than enough to be worried about for Bruce Arians in this Cardinals.
And they play the Colts next week, and that's going to be another big make or break game, in my opinion.
They gotta win that one.
If Scott Tolzien is the quarterback and they lose that game, God help all Cardinal fans, because I think something's going to bust. Something's going to just bust through, and someone's not going to be happy about it. And it's just, we hope David Johnson gets better for his injury's sake, just to get better, because he's such an unbelievable player. One of the best young, talented running backs I think this game has ever seen, honestly. The Dallas Cowboys defeated the New York Giants Sunday Night Football 19-3. Not that exciting of a game in general, guys, but yeah, Dak Prescott looked pretty good. Ezekiel Elliott rushing over 100 yards, and he ended up playing in this game. We'll talk about Zeke as that transitions. But my takeaway from this game, the Giants' offensive line and running game, they need help. Something is wrong with that offensive line for the New York Giants. And Brandon Marshall, I mean, what did Brandon Marshall have? He had 1 reception for 10 yards, 4 targets, no OBJ, and you targeted Marshall only 4 times. Marshall's supposed to be the secondary guy to OBJ. And because Beckham wasn't playing, 4 targets to Marshall, you got to target Marshall more. And if you're Eli Manning, there's nothing really else you could do about it.
Well, yeah, but you said it just now. No OBJ. I mean, you gotta remember that it was a game time decision for a while.
Yeah.
That if it was whether or not he was going to play, and that's the biggest part of the offense,
right?
For New York. So adjusting is obviously tough, but like you said, you got to find your next best receiver. And Eli Manning just had a rough night mostly. Only threw 1 interception though, but sacked 3 times for a loss of 22 yards. Just not a great outing for him, obviously. No. But it was really I would credit Cowboys more than I discredit the Giants.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
Harley, would you like to
Harley,
join in on this?
Harley, the defense, man. I mean, Sean Lee, he was everywhere. Jalen Smith, his first game. Talk specifically the defense for Dallas. I mean, that was incredible. Their defense was unbelievable, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If the defense can hold like that through the entire season, then I would change my NFC pick right now.
Oh, me too. And also, I made my pick assuming Ezekiel Elliott wasn't going to be playing 6 games.
That too.
Yeah, a lot changed for Dallas going into this game. Obviously, OBJ didn't play, didn't wind up playing. Zeke came back, and then the defense actually got some quarterback pressure, and New York couldn't move the ball. Mm-hmm. So it all just kind of came together, really, for week 1.
What'd you think of Dak Prescott? I mean, as I mentioned, 268 yards passing, a QBR of 69. I mean, it looked relatively okay for his first game.
It was a slow start. He looked like he didn't really know what he was doing, and he missed a lot of easy passes to Dez, I thought. It looked like he kind of was forcing it to Dez, and then kind of relaxed, calmed down, and then he was the Dak Prescott that we saw all of last year.
Janoris Jenkins looked like he was in Dez Bryant's head all night long, because those two were jibber-jabbering at each other all night long.
I'll tell you what, all I wanted to see out of Dak was a decent game. That's all I wanted to see. I just didn't want to see him come out flat. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it was a slower start. I wouldn't say he came out flat to the season, and that's all I wanted to see out of him. And then they're going to be fine. It wasn't as long as there was none of that rookie hangover or the sophomore slump. Then they'll be fine. And Dak Prescott definitely showed that. And I'm excited to watch the Cowboys this year.
Yeah, me too.
I'm excited to watch another year under their belt. Let's see if Zeke can stick around, and let's talk about him for a minute.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of Ezekiel Elliott, for those who don't know, the judge granted a temporary restraining order. Granted a request that was sent by Elliott, and it turns out that the I'm reading from a Todd Archer article on ESPN.com. It says federal judge Amos Mazant on Friday granted a release of NFL Players Association a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction to prevent the implementation of a 6-game suspension for Dallas Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott. So essentially, he will be serving his 6 games, but it just doesn't look like it might be this season. We just don't know when it will be. And for me, I think this guy should have been suspended because at the end of the day, the NFLPA just they have not handled this situation well at all, gentlemen. And that's where this all circles back to. It's going to circle back to Roger Goodell and the Players Association for not taking more initiative with this.
I mean, it's tough because you already know, and Harley, we talked about this before the show, that the NFL is not going to give up. They're going to try and get him for everything they can. Whether that's right or wrong is a different question, because at the end of the day, the evidence just doesn't seem to be there. Is it as simple as that, Harley? Is it?
For me, this all goes back to the Ray Rice situation. Mm-hmm. And you had the suspension, and then people were saying it wasn't long enough, and then the video came out, obviously that horrible video. And people started saying, well, if you guys had this before and only suspended him this amount of games, then you guys are like disgusting and like we're like boycotting the NFL. So, and then, you know, you had the Browns, I think it was the Browns or the Giants kicker, last year, admit to domestic abuse, and he only got a game.
Josh Brown, yeah.
Yeah. And so Josh Brown, that's where I got the Browns reference. But it's just, it seems like they're trying to make an example of a guy because he's a star that, you know, there's just isn't the right case to be doing that in my personal opinion.
And at the end of the day, he's playing 6 games. The Cowboys are going to have him, which is obviously a huge reason. It's a big impediment to their success, especially last year. And this year, moving forward, I honestly thought the Cowboys were still going to make the playoffs, even with McFadden and Morris at running backs. But with Elliott there and the defense looking good, yikes, Cowboys they're looking pretty good right now.
They're legit.
Yeah, they're legit. The Los Angeles Rams, Eliav, hold on. I'm trying to make sure I read this right. 46?
Just about more points they scored in one game than the entire season.
46-9 over the Indianapolis Colts. And Andrew Luckless Indianapolis Colts. And
they definitely didn't have luck.
Yeah. Scott Tolzien, a QBR 6. End of discussion. Jared Goff, 21 of 29 passes. Jared Goff, Eliav, looked good. Oh my goodness.
I'll tell you what, man. I all biases aside, of course, everything as straight up as a guy who sees a person like Jared Goff gets so much hate already, and is already considered a bust in so many people's eyes when he had an awful O-line and an awful head coach in Jeff Fisher last year, adjusting to coming in mid-season. You know, it's just so many things that people didn't consider, and obviously being a rookie, you got to adjust. Sometimes you need a year. It's okay.
Yeah, and the pressure, you know? the pressure this guy had. Number 1 overall pick, LA, the sunshine, palm trees, the whole bit. It's the second biggest market in the United States.
And people already doubting him, calling him a bust, everything. And I didn't like that because that's just unfair to the guy. That's unfair to in any sport, a first round pick, a first overall pick. If they don't live up to such crazy expectations the first pick should, I don't think they necessarily are a bust yet in one season. And then we see here 306 yards, 21 of 29, 0 interceptions, 1 touchdown. I mean, he just did so well, and I'm happy for him as really just a person that is just not sweating the haters as much and just doing his thing, you know, and with his coach behind him, with Sean McVay, which was such a good move for the Rams, such a young coach who understands these guys, a young team to go along with him, and a team that is solid on defense and needed help on the offensive side. They bring in the offensive-minded coach, and you see what happens. And even though the defense did a couple pick sixes and a safety, so they did their share of scoring.
Right, and they didn't even have Aaron Donald.
Which Aaron Donald reported back to the team. They're figuring it out. Sean McVay had a little chat with him, and they're on the same page, which should make all Rams fans more comfortable about the situation at the time, even though they've definitely butchered it to this point. It's a good sign for the Rams. I don't know how much this means because, like you said, I mean, Tolzien was the quarterback for the Colts, so you know the defense took advantage. You know, to their credit, they took advantage. But at the end of the day, we'll see how this progresses. But hey, it's a great start, and we'll see how it goes for the Rams from now on.
And they got a good receiving core, in my opinion. Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods. This kid, Cooper Crump, had 76 yards.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp.
That kid's legit, and he's got some nice weapons out there in the receiving core. So, to me, Jared Goff, and with Todd Gurley in the backfield, things are looking really good right now, in my opinion, for LA.
If the O-line can hold up, you never know.
The Green Bay Packers defeated the Seattle Seahawks 17-9 in a relatively, you could call, boring game in a sense. In the first half especially, 3-0 going into halftime. Aaron Rodgers, he looked pretty good, in my opinion. I thought he looked pretty good. 28 of 42 passing with such a stout defense that just acquired Sheldon Richardson and the Seahawks. 311 yards passing, a touchdown, an interception. He did have one of those interceptions, which might have been a pick six to begin the game, but it ultimately got called back because TJ Lane apparently threw a punch and got ejected, but I didn't even see the punch to begin with. So
He's a bad man.
yes. And Ty Montgomery, 54 yards rushing. Randall Cobb, 85 yards receiving. A really down year last year for Randall Cobb. It was good to see him get targeted 13 times. And Rodgers was able to do his normal thing, be the precision quarterback that he is, and scramble out of the pocket, be one of the best quarterbacks that I think we've ever seen talent-wise, and do his thing. And if you're the Seahawks, the offensive line needs to juice up and get rest up in a sense, and just they need the offensive line similar to the Giants. The offensive line for Seattle, that's a problem.
Yeah, when you look at the numbers, the fact that Russell Wilson is your leading rusher with 2 carries and 40 yards, that's a problem.
And Eddie Lacy, 5 carries for 3 yards against a team that got rid of you. You should have had more motivation than anybody to go in there and put up 100 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns.
Even though I'll tell you what, the Seahawks defense, they're back. They're back. Like
Legion of Boom.
I know they lost and all that, but at the end of the day, I really feel like the Legion of Boom, where you forget about the LOBs, last season and maybe even the season before, but you remember that. This team is still one of the premier defenses in the league, and in my opinion, could battle for the best defense in the league this year. And who knows what we can see in the postseason from this team, because they're battle tested. They know what they're doing. So, I'm excited to see both these teams and how they progress along the season.
The Houston Texans, they fell to the Jaguars 29-7. And the storyline in this game, what you could say was the Jacksonville defense. As we mentioned off the top, Calais Campbell had 4 sacks. Not 3.5, 4 sacks. Just a great stout defense that Jacksonville has built. But the bigger storyline is the Texans turning to Deshaun Watson at halftime. And he 12 of 23 for 102 yards, did have an interception. You would expect this kind of pedestrian, A-OK-ish performance from a rookie in his first game. I think the Texans need to stick with Deshaun Watson.
Oh, absolutely. It was a great move going to Deshaun Watson. Yeah. I have no objection to that. I think that's what they needed to do from the beginning of the game, in my opinion. I mean, Savage, it was okay. He didn't do he was just a content, it was fine. But I think with Watson, you got to bet on him. You got to bet on this kid. You know that he's a winner. You know that he has that red mentality, and I think he can have that Dak-esque kind of season for his rookie year. I think he can really kind of outperform in a way that what I mean by that is outperform what most even expect out of him in his rookie season. So. Okay. I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of high on him, and I think that with the defense backing him up, that defense that they have over there, then sky's the limit. It could turn out pretty nicely for them. But Blake Bortles, after all the offseason of getting so much, from all the fans and everybody. He got a dub. He got the win. With the help of Leonard Fournette, 26 carries for 100 yards, but still. Good for him, honestly.
And
he got so much hate.
And Leonard Fournette, kudos to him, 100 yards rushing in his first game. Leonard Fournette looked really good. So kudos to Jacksonville. I think everybody in the world doesn't think Jacksonville's going to go that far this year, but good for Fournette. Good stout defense. Texans, they need to stick to Deshaun Watson. They just have to. The Kansas City Chiefs pulled off probably, upset of the week, but they beat the New England Patriots. Yes, you heard that.
Yes, only because it's against the Patriots.
And 42-27. It wasn't just a win, Eliav. They smoked them. Alex Smith, game manager, what? That dude, 228 yards, 28 yards.
Who?
28 yards. 28 completions. 34 attempts passing, 368 yards, a QBR of 90. Really? This kid, Kareem Hunt, the rookie, fumbled on his first play, comes back, 148 yards rushing, 98 yards receiving. This kid appears to be the whole package for Kansas City.
And then Tyreek Hill helping him out, 133 yards in the backfield.
Wow. Kansas City, they lost Eric Berry. Yes, that's not good for Kansas City, but that's bad.
That's more than not good. That is awful.
Yeah. Moving forward, that's a problem for them.
He ultimately shut down Gronk for the game. Mm-hmm. He did such a good job defending Gronk, and then you already didn't have Edelman there. Mm-hmm. Amendola, 100 yards. He wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But also, I believe, got dinged up, and then. moving forward, I don't think there's any reason to worry. That's for sure. I mean, about the Patriots, there's really no reason to worry. They'll be fine. Tom Brady will figure it out. The Belichick, they'll recollect and do what the Patriots do, so it's not a big deal.
And people who think Tom Brady, because he's old in this loss, everybody's like, oh, Tom Brady's done. Oh, he's old. He's washed up. Oh, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop it right now. Stop it. Just stop it, please. Transitioning to a relatively more serious topic before we get to Bonehead of the Week. This story's been circulating around the world over for the last few days, and that's Michael Bennett, defensive end for the Seattle Seahawks. He took to Twitter and accused police officers in Las Vegas of racial profiling, and it was the night, early morning after Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor mega fight in Las Vegas, and I don't have the excerpt of the tweet right in front of me, but I do have Martellus Bennett's response, his brother Martellus Bennett, right in front of me, and it says, via MosesBread72, which is Michael Bennett's Instagram name, said, the call that night was a scary one. The emotion and the thought of losing you because of the way you look left me in one of the saddest places ever. And it goes on, and we don't have the time to read the whole excerpt, but that's the beginning of the excerpt. You guys can go check that out on Instagram. But my takeaway from this, Eliav, we got to be really careful here with what we say because we don't want to offend anybody here. It's just, for me, it's still sad that this happens in 2017. And we're here, and we just had an event that night where Conor McGregor went in there against Floyd Mayweather, where everybody expected him to get murdered and give him no shot, and a great spectacle of a sporting event where we all could get together and forget about the chaos that was going on in this country. Mm-hmm. And then to have that happen right afterwards, that's not okay. Michael Bennett is absolutely right to feel the way that he feels. He is one of the perpetrators one of the guys who started the kneeling of the national anthem along with Colin Kaepernick. So if you're the Las Vegas Police Department, I mean, you got to at least know who this guy is. You can't, you realize what you just did and who you just brought down and accused. You can't do that. That's not okay, Eliav. It's just not.
No, I completely agree. I really have nothing more to add more than what you just said. It's as simple as of course, there's some controversy as to how true it is because in the Vegas Police Department obviously came back and had their own opinion about how it went down, which was obviously not the same as he did. And so there's always going to be that. But at the end of the day, if it is true, I mean, obviously unacceptable and just speaks to the problem, the continuous problem we keep having in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
I mean, it just needs to stop. It's as simple as that, honestly.
And and it's good. We have these kind of conversations to further move forward the betterment of this country, and that's why we have these important discussions.
Stop being a bonehead.
It's time for Weston's Bonehead of the Week. We are going to head out to Pittsburgh for this week's Bonehead of the Week, and it takes place in the PNC Park between the Pirates and the Cubs. Now, I had a hard time this week finding one, Eliot, because it was pretty hard to topple last week with the punter whiffing on the punt. That was just hilarious. But we're gonna talk about Mr. Ian Happ, a center fielder for the Chicago Cubs, and he's having an okay rookie season. I mean, he's hitting 256 this year, but he had kind of a moment where he'll be able to laugh about this for the rest of his life. So a pitch comes in, routine ground ball to second base. Okay, it's a routine 4-3 put out, but because the ball was thrown to first base, Happ really wasn't anywhere to be found, but that's because he swung, and the bat, this does not happen often, the bat gets stuck right in between his legs. I'm watching the video right now. Gets in between his legs, and what? As Chris Berman would say, he falls down, and he's just like, oh, that really just happened. Looking away, he's like, yeah. He's still trying to have the swagger look in his eyes like, yeah, I'm still cool, but he's like, he knows what just happened. Yeah. Ian Happ.
Why doesn't it happen more, though? Why doesn't it happen more? Because you bring it down. I understand that, most of the time you're going to throw it off to the side, and that's great. But in baseball, I mean, there's so many people going up to bat, and so many mistakes that can happen that I feel like swinging down while you're trying to run, that should happen more often.
And also it's because, funny. I mean, there are a lot of players who are really eccentric with how they get rid of the bat after they hit. So a lot of it is that, but it's just, that's something you don't see every day. Ian Happ is this week's Bonehead of the Week. The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay, Blaze Radio, and BlazeRadioOnline.com. Stick around with us. We're going to talk some college football in the next segment. A lot of it to get to, and especially we are going to be talking about Arizona State. Do not worry about that. Stick around with us. You're listening to The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay on Blaze Radio and BlazeRadioOnline.com. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to my house, baby, take control now. We can't even slow down. We don't have to go a while. Welcome to my
Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay, Blaze Radio, BlazeRadioOnline.com. Here in the Bill Austin Radio Studios in downtown Phoenix. Thank you for starting your Monday off here with us on a high note, as you always do. We're going to transition to some college football. Arizona State, they lost on Saturday to San Diego State, 30-20. Now, the score says 30-20, and you're like, oh, it's a 10-point loss. It's going to be okay. But for those who didn't see the game, like me and Eliav and Harley did, it's yikes.
No, it's a 10-point loss, and it's not a good one.
It feels more like a 30-point loss, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, even when you look at the score just like that, when it says 30-20 to San Diego State,
yeah,
then you're just like, okay, they're going to have issues in the Pac-12, big issues in the Pac-12. But, I mean, let's just talk about the main points right now.
Yeah, the main point, I think the main things to hit on are
O-line.
Yes.
Special teams.
Yes.
And then, well, I mean, injuries was a factor, I'd say.
I feel like Todd Graham is also a thing to talk about because, like, that's a hot topic of conversation.
That's
it's been a hot topic of conversation for a while now. But after that game, I mean, a lot of people had a problem with him taking a timeout with like 5 seconds left or something like that. I mean,
that was so petty. What's
the point? What is the point?
I don't know. It's pride.
Let's talk before we. First of all, Rashad Penny ran roughshod all over them, 216 yards. I mean. You got to be kidding me. And so Todd Graham in the press conference, I mean, he really hit on those things that we talked about. Here was Todd Graham at the post-game press conference after Saturday's loss.
A disaster special teams-wise, which has not been the case. That's been we've done pretty well and give up a kickoff return for a touchdown and then shanked, I think, a couple balls about 10 yards out of bounds. Struggling offensively to get a rhythm and we gotta, we're supposed to be a run, play, action, pass team, and we're not able to run the ball. We got some guys dinged there early. Obviously, DeMario wasn't available to play. Then Kalen got dinged up, and we just did a poor job getting penalties and just poor job coaching, poor job playing and performing. We got to be better than that.
I mean, he said it. He said it. You got to be better than that. There's nothing more to say. Then there's in every way they have to be better.
Yeah.
Like you said as well, I don't think the special teams is as big of a deal as the O-line because special teams, like you said, is usually pretty good. Mm-hmm. But the O-line is just consistently been bad.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many times Manny Wilkins has been sacked this year in the first 2 games. I think it's like maybe 7
12.
or 8. 12.
7 the first game and 5 the second game.
12 times. I mean, that's a problem, Eliav. Harley, that is a problem.
Yeah.
You cannot have, and as versatile and as mobile as Manny Wilkins is, he is a good pocket passer, in my opinion, when he's clean and precise in the pocket. Yeah. He can fling that football. He can throw it. That's why he's as good as he is because he can also run. But you got to block for him. You have to.
And let's talk about the defense for a minute. Rashad Penny. Whoa.
Wow.
Wrecked them. Him and Washington, honestly.
Yeah.
They both come together. It was too much. It was just way too much to handle. I mean,
270 yards between those 2 guys.
I mean, oh, wow. It was just, and it really, when you watch the game, it felt like a man amongst boys.
Oh, of course.
He was just piling through tackles. He was spinning around defenders. I mean, he was really just very, very impressive.
Yeah. And we hit on the offensive line real quick about special teams. I had a problem with, I think everybody did, with the 12-yard punt out of the end zone. And
I mean,
see, I'm in the press box, Eliav. You're down on the field, right? Yeah. I'm in the press box. I'm listening to the game, making sure the call's going smoothly. And it's okay. Everything's going pretty smoothly. Ryan Curry, Jerondre did a great job. And I'm sitting there, the 12-yard punt. I look over at Chris Cadeau, our assistant sports director. I look over at him, and I'm like, did he just punt the ball 12 yards? Chris Cadeau, I could have easily punted it 20 yards. Oh, my gosh. And Chris is a big dude. He could easily punt it more than 20 yards. Are you kidding me? But get him down there. But let's all joking aside.
I want to give Michael Sleep Dalton though some credit because he's better
more
than that.
seriousness, yeah.
He was kicking with his off foot because he's had some strains on his right leg. So
and it's all fun and games with what I said. Just
yeah, of course. But he was kicking with his off foot, so that could have had something to do with it. But even Todd Graham said he's never seen that in practice or in a game or anything from Michael Sleep Dalton. So, it's just one of those times. And as long as it doesn't become a habit, which I don't think it will, they'll be fine in that regard.
And Brandon Ruiz, he's been all right kicking so far. We haven't had the greatest of chances to look at him as it pertains to field goals because he didn't have any field goal attempts in the second game against San Diego State. But he looks like a relatively good start for replacing Zane Gonzalez, who's obviously probably one of the hardest guys in the world to ever replace. Real quick, is Marcus Ball retired? He put a statement out there on Twitter, and I commend Marcus Ball for doing what he did and deciding to step away. He was a big part of that secondary, even though it's just 120th. But still,
secondary that needed him.
And losing him, that's a problem.
I mean, credit to him to make that tough decision because. Seizures, you can't do anything about that.
For 3 years.
At the end of the day, it has to do with you have to focus on your health.
Yeah, exactly.
And if that's happening, he has a kid, man. If that's happening, you have to focus on being there for your kid. And he did the right decision. Absolutely made the right decision, and good for him. And I hope, best of luck to him, whatever he does in the future, because you got to commend a guy like that.
Ditto. Let's blaze through these college football games before we take a break and then hit on the U.S. Open. Oklahoma, 31-16 over Ohio State. Man, Baker Mayfield, boy, he's the truth. Baker Mayfield, 386 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, waving the flag in the horseshoe, having the nerve to go over and walk around the stadium doing all of that. This guy's got he is the truth. And I think Oklahoma, they are a legit playoff team when it comes to the top 4. JT Barrett, 19 of 34 passing. Very, very pedestrian night, to say the least, for JT Barrett. But Ohio State's going to rebound. Sure, Ohio State, they always have a tough schedule, but they got this guy named Urban Meyer, who's one of the best coaches in college football.
Just some guy.
He's just some random Joe Schmo, apparently, but no. I'm looking at their schedule. They got Penn State coming up on the 28th. That's their next rank opponent that they're facing. They're easily going to beat Army, UNLV, Rutgers, Maryland. They'll take care of business. Ohio State should be just fine.
Yeah, moving on to USC versus Stanford. Sam Darnold looked like the guy that everyone thought he was going to be, at 21 of 20, I'm looking at it right now, 21 of 26, 316 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But at the end of the day, he went to work and, with that, man, good. He
just makes you stutter. He's just that good.
Exactly. And also, rushing at 119 yards from Carr. He got 116 yards from Jones. Wow.
Malapai
really
had
went
49 as well. So their offense is the truth. I'm excited to see Sam Darnold moving forward. And speaking of Heisman Trophy candidates, we need to talk about Mr. Lamar Jackson.
Oh, my God.
He went bonkers on the North Carolina Tar Heels. They beat the Tar Heels. His Louisville team did 47-35. Great game out there in North Carolina. 393 yards passing for Lamar Jackson, 95 QBR. And oh, by the way, he ran for 132 yards as well. He's the reigning Heisman Trophy candidate winner. I think he's going to do it again.
He very well can. If you keep putting numbers like that, how do you not? That's kind of the question to me. But the bigger question is going to be, how will his team's success translate?
Yes, and they're number 17. No, Louisville is ranked number 17. They're probably going to move up after this win. If Louisville can keep winning, and pulling up their schedule right now, they're in the ACC. They got Clemson next week. That game right there, Eliav, when they play Clemson in Clemson next week, that's a game for him to really, really showcase why he could be the back-to-back Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
Washington State pulled out a really just gutsy and great smash mouth football that they played. They beat Boise State 47-43 in 3 overtimes, have you? And by the way, they even did it without Luke Falk. And it wasn't by injury, it was by choice. Mike Leach took him out. Helinski, the backup quarterback for Washington State, came in there and balled out. 25 of 33 passing, 240 yards. He took the team back, and Boise State was up by 20 at one point. And boy, Boise State, you can't be blowing this lead when you're up that much. And not to mention the backup quarterback with Luke Falk, who's been the backbone of that offense for so long, comes in and leads them back. Not good for Boise State, but kudos as well to Washington State.
I mean, Helinski, you got to give him so much credit because when you step up like that, in a time where your team needs you, that says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that says a lot about getting opportunities for the future, too.
Yeah.
So, good for him. And just from a player's perspective, it's nice to see when a guy really, when he gets a chance and he actually delivers.
Mm-hmm.
So just overall, good stuff from him.
And by the way, Mike Leach in the post-game interview, post-game press conferences again, he's a treasure to listen to when it comes to those post-game press conferences. He's easily probably the most honest, brutally honest man when it comes to press conferences in college football. The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay, Blaze Radio, and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. Come on back with us. We're going to talk Rafael Nadal. He won the U.S. Open. So did Sloane Stephens. And we're also going to talk about Hall of Fame introductions. T-Mac, Rebecca Lobo, Bill Self. They're all in the Hall of Fame now. Come on back with us. You're listening to the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay on Blaze Radio and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. Don't go anywhere. Want you to know you're my favorite girl.
Stop. No, oh my God.
Welcome back to the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay here on Blaze Radio, 1330 a.m. and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com.
Who's singing that song?
Snoop Dogg and Pharrell.
Oh, let's keep it that way. Yeah.
Good one. That was good. That was good. Okay.
Right.
Okay, I got to get myself together here again. Rafael Nadal. He is a champion yet again. I mean, this dude's a champion through every way. What was it here?
Third U.S. Open.
Third U.S. Open. He entered the 2017 Grand Slam season on a 2.5-year drought with so much as one appearance in a major final, let alone a title. So this dude, he faced up against Kevin Anderson and beat him 6-3, 6-3, and 6-4 at Flushing Meadows to win his third championship, 16th overall Grand Slam trophy for Mr. Nadal. For me, man, Rafael Nadal, it all comes down to him versus Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic. I mean, I would love to see Nadal. I mean, anytime Nadal versus Federer, my eyes are locked on the television. And I don't watch tennis a whole lot, openly, admittingly. I just don't. But when it comes to Rafael Nadal, this guy, whether he's playing Kevin Anderson in the final or he's playing the number-ranked 100th in the world, it doesn't matter. He is essentially must-see TV. He is that good.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, he's, like you said, for the past, I mean, for at least our generation,
yes,
it's been those two guys running the top for so long. Mm-hmm. And you got to give, I mean, the consistency is unreal. It's just unbelievable. I mean, these guys are the old-timers right now, and they're still putting in the work that they have been. I mean, you got to give credit to that 100%. My God.
And by the way, I'm reading off ESPN.com. This guy's pocketed since 2007 over $80 million in prize money with all that he's won. He's 31 years old. He's maybe he's getting older. Yeah, whatever.
He made
turned pro in 2001.
He made $80 million, you said?
Yes.
Well,
more than $85 million.
Sloane Stephens made $3.7 million, and there was a video on the internet somewhere where she was just like, she saw the check and she was like, oh. you see the money that you're just like, oh. I mean, I was just focused on winning, but whoa, almost $4 million. I'll take it.
Oh, Sloane Stephens. She's a 24 years old from Plantation, Florida. And she won her first Grand Slam title over Madison Keys. This girl's got a lot of potential, a lot of promise, and she won 6-3, 6-0, swept the second set, completely annihilated her close friend, by the way. They're also close friends. So Man, this is funny. Reading off ESPN.com. She said after, quote, she jokingly said, I should just retire now. I told Maddie I'm never going to be able to top this. I mean, talk about a comeback, end quote.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you beat Venus Williams, that's when you surge yourself into some type of momentum, being one of the first American woman to win the U.S. Open since 2002.
Beautiful.
Outside of the Williams sisters. Whoa. I mean, that means a lot. That shows that, tennis is progressing, and that's so important. So important. So good for her. And I'm glad she gets to catch that check.
Me too. I get handed the check. As Conor McGregor said in his post-fight, he's like, every time I do this, screw blank this. I'm not doing this. But then I get handed the check. And I'm like, all right, then. I'll do it one more time.
I guess I'll have to. Especially the last check you just got.
Oh my gosh, $100 million. Yeah. What did you? We'll talk about that guy in a little bit. Plus, there's also somehow he's getting sued for some weird reason. We're going to talk about that later. Transitioning to the NBA for a quick time. There's not a lot going on in the NBA right now. We're kind of close. We're just waiting for the NBA season to get started as we're all excited.
It's coming earlier.
So,
Thank God.
Since we pride ourselves on talking about every sport here on the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay, let's see. There were Hall of Fame inductions this weekend, and 11 new inductees into the Hall of Fame. One of which is a man who was arguably one of the most flashiest guys we saw this generation, and
one of the most bona fide scorers we've ever seen.
And that is Tracy McGrady.
Yeah.
And 7 consecutive All-Star appearances from 2001 to 2007 with the Magic and the Rockets. And this guy, I remember watching this guy. I do remember watching this guy growing up play basketball, and he was purely electric when it came to being on the court. And when Bill Self was another one who got inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, his numbers speak for himself when it comes to his career at Kansas, being able to recruit top guns to come in there and then transition to the NBA. Joel Embiid, Josh Jackson, the list just goes on and on for Bill Self. Rebecca Lobo also got in there. She does a great job with our good friend Ryan Rucco for ESPN, calling those WNBA games. She does a tremendous job. Must-watch television, guys. So, at the end of the day, a well-deserved, to say the least, but T-Mac, man, I'm curious, Eliav, you being the basketball lover that you are and just through and through, you, with Tracy McGrady, I remember just, as I mentioned, the flashiness that he played on the basketball course. What stood out to me? What stood out to you with Tracy McGrady?
What stood out to me is, growing up a Laker fan and watching Kobe night in and night out, you're just like, oh, yeah, no one's close to him. Oh, yeah, well, Tracy McGrady was pretty close at one point to talking about a guy who, if it wasn't for injury, who knows what could have happened with Tracy McGrady. It's just such a shame that injury cut his career. Well, not short, but not necessarily short.
It could have been better.
He played for, exactly, but more fulfilling because, I mean, on the Magic, averaging 32 points a game with a team full of almost pretty much nobody. Well, actually, the season after that, he had the team with nobodies, and that when he averaged 28 points a game. That's pretty weak. No, I saw an open court when he was talking about how, I had a weaker year that year after my 32 points per game, and then I believe it was Ernie Johnson. He said, didn't you average 28 points per game? And then everyone started laughing. He's like, oh, it's a weak year. Yeah. And he's just like, oh, come on. But I came up averaging 32. And it was so funny that that's the level he put himself at. But yeah. And then with the Rockets, I thought that's when he had his highest chance to actually win.
6 years with the Rockets.
And then it was just getting hurt, and it was a problem. I mean, he had Yao Ming on that team, them together. I mean, even without Jason McGrady, that team took the Lakers to Game 7. To Game 7 when they actually won the title that year against the Magic, which Wes and I was watching that, and I was nervous when Rafer Alston was the guy making moves for them. But anyway, before I get into all that, no, just absolute respect, Tracy McGrady. He deserves it, no doubt. And then there's always the question of, he didn't win a ring. What's his legacy like? Hall of Fame is so easy to get into. But at the end of the day, anyone who is who truly has followed basketball knows that this decade and our generation, I mean, Tracy McGrady is up there with some of the best players.
Yep. Two things before we take a break. With Tracy McGrady, one, I'm looking at his playoff stats right in front of me. I got him right in front of me. He played 3 seasons in the playoffs with the Rockets, 3 with the Magic, 1 with the Hawks, 1 with San Antonio for a brief moment in time. Both of those were brief, and then with Toronto as well. But this guy averaged 22 points in the playoffs. And, you mentioned a lot of the conversation with Hall of Fame and greatness these days is rings. And do they have rings? If they don't have rings, then they don't make it into the Hall of Fame. But when you see 22 points per game with the amount of times that he was in the playoffs, of course he deserves the Hall of Fame. Anybody who says Tracy McGrady should not be in the Hall of Fame should be ashamed of themselves. Completely. And the other thing, on a lighter note, before we take a break, I loved when Tracy McGrady was in Like Mike. That was awesome. The movie, Like Mike is one of my favorite movies of all time. I remember he was stripped by Calvin Cambridge. He's got the ball in his hand. Like, yeah, I got the ball.
It's right here.
I got the ball right here.
All right, let's go into my soft spot of the week before we head into the break. 7-year-old Haley Dawson wants to throw out the first pitch at every MLB ballpark with her 3D printed hand. And you know what? All the teams, all the MLB franchises started tweeting and tweeting and tweeting, we got you, we got you, we got you. And the Nationals, I believe, was the first team to get her going on that pretty awesome goal that I think she's going to get, because you see Detroit, I'm just going to pull a couple of them. Detroit Tigers, sounds great. Can you DM us Haley's info? Milwaukee Brewers, we're on the board. Send her our way. Minnesota Twins, can you make it up to Minnesota, Haley? DM us your info. New York Mets, absolutely. Please DM us Haley's info.
Wow.
Pirates, for sure. DM us her info.
Wow.
Mariners, such an incredible story. Can you DM us her info? So basically, they all want her info because she will get it done. And good for her, man. Good for her. It's a 7-year-old girl. It's so adorable and so inspiring. So inspiring. I mean, so a lot of people, the 3D printed hand, might bring them down, but she is embracing it, and good for her. Good for her, absolutely.
The power of social media, man, what they can do. And seeing all this stuff, I mean, Bleacher Report reported it. And by the way, I'm looking at the picture right now. She's got a pair of Ray-Bans on. That's pretty smooth right there.
Yeah.
Look at the Ray-Bans on this girl.
Yeah, no, and she got that mug on, like,
Yeah, swag zone.
That's right.
Wow. Good for her. Haley Dawson. Dang. Good for her, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Love that segment. We need to keep doing that, Eliav. The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay. Blaze Radio and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. Come on back with us. I'm sorry, that was your .com. I'm trying to sound too much like you, Eliav. But come on back with us. We're going to talk some baseball. Dodgers, oh boy, they lost 10 straight. That's not okay. D-backs are in the hunt. Plus the WNBA playoff picture. We know Eliav's got a lot to say about that. Stick around. You're listening to The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay on Blaze Radio and BlazeRadioOnline.com. Do not go anywhere.
I found you finally. You make me wanna say, oh, 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 oh my gosh.
The great Usher, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay. Yes, he was great in that Hands of Stone movie where he, dude, Usher, and he looked good. I mean, that 6-pack he had, I mean, I want that. Come on.
Oh yeah, and the scene where you see him with the back muscle, I was like, man, you really want to work for this movie, boy.
Man, dude, how can I got to get those 6-pack abs, man. I have to. I mean, I have to.
A long way to go.
I don't know what.
I don't know whether it's the
sit-ups.
Studio.
In the studio. Yes, okay, here we go. Oh,
okay.
That's 1.
Usher.
2.
Raymond.
3.
Usher.
4.
Raymond.
5. Yes. Okay. Yes, I'm getting there, dude.
He's on motivation.
I got to get off the chips and I got to get off the pop. That's the problem. So I got to stop doing that. Then I'll get the 6-pack. But we digress. I'm sorry. Welcome back to the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay. Here on Blaze Radio and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. 602-496-5156 is always the number to call up. Once again, that's 602-496-5156. Call in. We can talk baseball, whatever's on your mind. We got a big fight coming up this weekend. We're going to get into that next segment.
NFL first week, so much.
Yep, call 602-496-5156. In the meantime, dude, the Los Angeles Dodgers, this is, here's the deal. 92-51. That is a unbelievable record to begin with. But the fact that this team has lost 11 straight, and then they beat the Padres 1-0, but then they got swept by the Diamondbacks back in Arizona. It just, I don't know.
Been swept by the Rockies.
I cannot, and the Rockies needed that too for their NL wildcard run. But there's something, I don't know if it's the pitching staff or the injuries. You can just feel when you're watching this team on television, Eliav, they just are down. They're lethargic. They're dragging. It's almost sad to watch.
Oh yeah, for September, it's really been honestly most of August. It's been tough. They've been the ragdoll of the NL West. Yeah. Honestly, these past like what 3-4 weeks. What I'll say is this though: if you're gonna lose, right now is the time to do it before it becomes all right. Now it's game time and you really need to win, which is right about like in a week or so where you need to start getting that groove back for the postseason, because you want probably like 2 weeks before you want to start getting the groove so you're feeling hot and you're feeling good. But right now, Weston, it just does not look like they're finding that at all. I mean, they'll go up in games and then lose the game. Mm-hmm. You know that it's not like it's just always blowouts. They're in the game and they end up losing, which is just so it's deflating.
Mm-hmm. Dude,
and it's happening
a good way to put it.
Often. You know, and it's just if they want to have a chance in the postseason, they have to turn it around in about a week or less.
They have to, yes.
Or a maximum 2 weeks or less. Because if you're looking like this, that's how baseball is. We know this. If you're not hot going into the postseason, it's a lot harder to get it going when now there's a series and anything can happen. You know, and especially if they see the D-backs.
Oh, wow.
You know, that doesn't make anybody comfortable. Mm-hmm. If they see the Rockies after this weekend, you know, who knows? Mm-hmm. You know, they couldn't even get one. I mean, at first I was saying it wasn't as concerning, whatever, it happens, it's all good. But it's starting to feel concerning for the Dodgers.
It should.
And it should, of course. But at the end of the day, they still have the personnel. They still have the same team. Nothing's changed. So we'll see if they can heat up. We'll see if they can, because if they don't, it's going to be another one of them Dodger postseasons.
Look, the offense, I'm looking through the games they've lost. The most amount of runs they've scored since this streak has started, or just this losing trend has started, they scored 6 runs against the Diamondbacks here at Chase Field in the first game. They lost 7-6. But other than that, 4 runs, 1-0-5, 2-4-0, 1-1, 1-4-5, just their offense, when you look at just generally looking at their schedule, their offense is not hitting, and that's the problem, I think, in nuts right there. So you got a series starting in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. You need to beat the Giants, because the Giants are a dumpster fire, as we talked about in the last episodes.
Oh, absolutely, and this is the perfect kind of series to jumpstart you back. Mm-hmm. You know, because it's a bad team, but at the same time, it's a team that you hate.
Yeah.
If you're the Dodgers, so it's still gonna have the same momentum as beating a team that's good because of the rivalry. Mm-hmm. So this is your chance to really capitalize on a bad team, but a good situation for you at this time to get out of this slump. And it needs to happen in this series, Weston. It really does, because when you see those players out there on the field, they're shocked. They're shocked at times, just like, what is happening? Mm-hmm. You know, and it looks, if again, I mean, I'm repeating myself. You know, if they don't turn this around soon, this Dodger empire, this season that everyone's been talking about, it's all for nothing.
It's going to fall like a house of cards, and it's going to be a long offseason, that's for sure. Yep. 602-496-5156 is always a number to call up. 602-496-5156. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they lost 2 of 3 to San Diego this weekend. Now, coming off a 13-game winning streak, too. The Diamondbacks just, it's their offense. JD Martinez from the Detroit Tigers. What is it, like 24 home runs, 20-plus home runs. He's already been in 40-plus games with the Diamondbacks. Just what a pickup by Mike Hazen and that crew. And he did it, too, before the trade deadline. It was not on the day of the trade deadline. So kudos complete to Mike Hazen for getting JD Martinez. And also, he's interested in staying long-term. That's huge for the Diamondbacks. That tandem out there. We got the Peralta in left field, Pollock in center field, and JD Martinez in right field. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. And we've been looking for that kind of a third outfielder since the Diamondbacks traded the deal for Ender Inciarte for Shelby Miller. Don't get me started. I'm in a good mood today. And now they start a series with the Rockies at home. And after contemplation and after thinking about it a little bit more, just the history that the Diamondbacks have had of continuously falling flat on their face, it's been evident and it's been there, but the way they're playing Eliav, Harley, I cannot go against it. I can't. And I think this team, they got a 5-game lead in the wild card. The Rockies are playing good ball, but the Diamondbacks, man, the Diamondbacks are going to make that wild card. I can't believe I'm saying that. They're going to make that playoff. Yeah. And I think the Diamondbacks are going to be hosting a playoff game.
Yeah, no, it's good for them. First of all, good for them because I was one of the doubters. You were one of the doubters throughout this season, where you always thought the Diamondbacks were just going to lose it, and that's just how it works. No matter what happens, it's just going to turn on them at some point, and it did. It did, but they're getting hot at the perfect time of the year, and in baseball. That's what matters. I said it earlier about the Dodgers not doing that, and the Diamondbacks are doing that. So you never know.
And we talked about that last year when the Cubs and the Indians made the World Series. I don't think the Indians, people picked the Indians to go to the World Series, but it wasn't a consensus. Cleveland versus Chicago.
The Cubs was kind of a consensus going through.
Yes. And speaking of the Indians, they have won 17 straight ball games. I watched part of their game last night on Sunday Night Baseball against the Baltimore Orioles. They won 3-2. This team, completely unlike the Dodgers. The Indians, just watching them for 2 innings, all I had to do was watch for 2 innings. This team is having so much fun playing, and for good reason. Lindor, so what happened with Lindor goes up to bat, he breaks a bat, and so Abraham Almonte gives him his bat. Cubs swings and misses, then he clocks one into the right field bleachers. As he hits the home run, looks right over into the dugout, and just is like, yeah. And he's just like, I can't believe Abraham Almonte's just like, I can't believe that just happened. That right there is just in a nutshell how great the Cleveland Indians are playing right now. They're on the chase to potentially win 20 games, which, as many know, is reserved by the 2002 Oakland A's and Moneyball. And great movie.
And, the genius behind that was Jonah Hill.
Peter Brand.
Credits of Brad Pitt.
Oh, my gosh. Great movie. Oh, my gosh. The Indians are just, it all also starts from the top with Terry Francona. What an unbelievable manager he has, that he is, I should say. 87-56. The Indians, man, they were a relatively consensus option in the AL coming out of this year. And I still think I'm going to stick to my preseason prediction, which was that the Cubs and the Indians are still going to meet again for the World Series in October.
Really?
Yes. And that's because the Indians are playing good ball. The Cubs, they're going to turn it up. They always do it this time because of Joe Madden and that offense and that pitching rotation. I completely put all my trust in Joe Madden and the Chicago Cubs. I still got the Cubs and the Indians going to the World Series.
Okay. I don't agree. But
oh, really then?
Okay.
Who do you have, Eliav Gabay?
It's not ridiculous. I still I have Dodgers and Indians. I right now your pick is looking much better than mine. But I just don't know. I just don't know how much I've seen out of the Cubs this season to say the Cubs still.
Fair enough. And I'm going off of history, and I know this year has been a slump this year. Ian Happ, we mentioned it, 250. Rizzo has been good, but Schwarber has just been all over the place. The pitching staff is just injuries galore for that pitching staff. But the Cubs, Joe Madden, they proved it to me last year. This is a playoff team. Joe Madden has proven consistently that he is a postseason kind of manager. He will have his crew ready. I have no doubt about that.
All right, let's talk some WNBA.
Yeah.
Playoff picture right now. Both my picks were right.
I'm not surprised at all, Eliav. Not at all.
Mystics go all the way through the Wings and the Liberty are gonna play the Lynx, and then Mercury went all the way through Storm and Sun to get to the Sparks, and we're gonna hope to be there for that game when the Sparks come here on Sunday. But wow, Brittany Griner, 26 points.
Wow.
Against the Connecticut Sun in a game where it wasn't sold. It was 88-83 and a pretty solid game to go through, but and it was in Connecticut. So, it's a big away win for the Mercury, obviously. And here we go. Now the fun starts. Now it's the semifinals. Sparks, Mercury, we know that matchup. It is so fun when those two teams collide because you got the two dynamic duos that are always sure to put on a show. And Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner on the Mercury side. And then you have, as I always mention, Candace Parker and Nneka Ogwumike on the Sparks side. I mean, talk about a fun time and just a great game to go and watch. So I really hope we can make it out there. I know I'm going to be watching it if I'm not there.
Oh, yeah.
But wow. And then on the other side, of course, you got Deldon. Deldon, you got Maya Moore with the Lynx. But at the end of the day, guys, I'm gonna go with the Lynx.
Yeah.
It seems just like too easy of a pick, but it's just. There's a reason it's too easy of a pick sometimes. You don't have to overthink it sometimes, and that's where I'm not going to. I see a rematch of last year's finals.
Me too.
Sparks coming through, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. The Mercury are no one to play with. If they go in there thinking at all that they've got it sold, the Sparks, it's not going to happen because the Mercury are going to grind it out. They know how to do it. They've been here before, so they can just as easily come and swoop this championship from under everybody's legs as, by the way, a 5th seed. So
yeah,
we'll see how that ends up for them.
For me, look, last year's final between the Sparks and the Lynx, that was
one of the best finals I've ever seen in any sport.
And for me, I remember thinking when I saw that game, that final, we're going to see this we're going to see this again. We're going to be seeing this again, whether it's next year or in 2 years. We have to see this again. Maya Moore versus that Sparks kind of team with Ogwumike and Candace Parker. You cannot go against a great player like Maya Moore, and that's something I can't do. So when I look at the Minnesota Lynx versus the Sparks, I had the Sparks last year just because I thought they were going to be able to grind it out with that 1-2 punch. But when I think this year, Minnesota coming back, having lost, and then having experienced that kind of loss, Maya Moore, she's going to have that group ready to go. And I got the Lynx and the Sparks facing off just like you. And, we'll save our official predictions.
Not yet.
And I'll think about it more. I reserve the right to change my mind. But I think that the Lynx and the Sparks,
I'm not picking anybody yet. I'm not picking anybody yet.
I might, if I said I picked the Lynx over the Sparks, I apologize. I remember the right to reserve to change my mind. Okay? That's just the way it goes. That's the way it goes.
No.
Yes. It's our show.
Whatever you decide now is it. Forever.
We call the shots. We call the shots here. This is our show. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I just said that. The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay. Blaze Radio and BlazeRadioOnline.com. We're going to close out the show next. We got an exciting segment for you. I'm excited about this. Canelo Alvarez going up against Triple G, Gennady Golovkin on Saturday on HBO pay-per-view. Plus, I got a little bit of a recap for UFC 215, and I do have something to say about the state of the UFC. Stick around. You're listening to The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay on Blaze Radio and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. Do not go anywhere.
I get it. I get it.
Unless you're in college like us, we do not get money.
Kick that music. I love this.
I get it.
Money.
AKA the notorious MMA's walk-up song.
Yes, amen. I Get Money by 50 Cent here on the Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay.
One day.
Yes. So let's dive in. Let's close out the show. I'm excited for this segment right here, Eliav. We got an exciting, one of the most exciting, most anticipated boxing matches that has been planned out for the last few years, honestly, Eliav. And that is Saul Canelo Alvarez going up against Gennady Golovkin, the knockout artist that he is.
Triple G.
They are set to go at it for the WBA, WBC, IBF, and little middleweight championships of the world at the T-Mobe in Las Vegas, Nevada. Live on HBO pay-per-view, Mr. Jim Lampley, the greatest boxing voice as far as I'm concerned, with Max Kellerman doing their thing. Going to be an unbelievable fight. So let's look at the tail of the tape here. We got Canelo Alvarez, 49-1, 34 knockouts. The 5'9" and orthodox fighter going up against Gennady Golovkin, 37-0, 33 knockouts. And he is 5'10" and a half.
Oh my God.
So I have not. I will openly confess, When this segment started, I still did not have my official prediction. I will be making my official prediction literally on the spot for this fight.
Let me tell you mine.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going with Canelo, but it's ever so slightly.
Yeah.
Because first of all, as good as Triple G, I mean, like, if he wins, I'm not shocked. Let's put it that way. I'm not shocked.
I'm not shocked no matter what happens.
But, of course, we know he's a knockout artist. I like Canelo in this because, boy, first of all, that kid's chin.
It's tough.
It's very tough, first of all. So I don't think anyone's going to be knocked out here, by the way.
Okay.
I think it's going the distance because both these guys know how to stick around and know how to make a fight last, first of all. But I'm going to go with Canelo because I feel like his fighting style has just been so consistent over his entire career. Not that Triple G hasn't, but his work ethic, he's humble, he's quiet, he gets his job done. And it's going to be so fun to see how this plays out. But I'm going to go with Canelo.
You notice that we just got really quiet?
Yeah.
We need to get excited again. So here's the deal. Gennady Golovkin has 33 knockouts. He is a knockout artist extraordinaire, Eliav. And the thing that in boxing and especially in just combat sports, precision always beats power. And that's something that Conor McGregor said. Precision will beat power. Gennady Golovkin has a lot of precision, but his power is what defines him as a boxer. And when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, however, power is not what defines him. What defines Canelo Alvarez to me is his precision and his ability to duck his punches. Great defensive fighter. You mentioned it, his chin. That is one tough chin that guy has. 49 wins. His one loss was to Floyd Mayweather.
Which, I mean, does that even count?
Yeah, golly.
Does that even count?
So in his last fight, Canelo, I mean, he schooled Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. It was not even a boxing match. It was an exhibition as far as I'm concerned. Chavez should be ashamed of the way he came in there. Didn't even throw hardly any punches, for goodness sake. But at the end of the day, when it comes to this fight, I am going with Canelo Alvarez to win.
Ooh.
And I wish we could disagree.
How?
But for me, I think Canelo Alvarez pulls it out in the last round by a stoppage in the last round. And a 12th round TKO victory for Saul Canelo Alvarez. As tough as that is, so much love and respect for Gennady Golovkin because he is a knockout artist. He is one of the most exciting fighters we've ever seen in this generation.
I'll tell you what,
it's the way I think it's going to go, man.
As strong as Golovkin's chin is as well, I mean, Canelo's known for that power. The ultimate power. You know, so if anyone's going to get knocked out, that's why I'm truly picking Canelo, because these guys are so at the same level that I'm going to go with, like, I'm talking about the threads. The threads of the needles. Yeah. And I think that if anyone's going to be the one to end it early, it's going to be Canelo doing that to Triple G.
And it's tough because this is honestly the hardest fight, UFC, boxing, I have ever had to predict in my entire life. Going to be an incredible fight. Been looking forward to this for 4 months now. And 2 years, honestly. So go check it out. HBO pay-per-view Saturday on HBO pay-per-view. It is Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin. UFC 215 took place on Saturday. We were not able to see it because we were at the Arizona State game, but from what I saw and what I heard, the main event between Amanda Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko was not relatively the most exciting one, but Nunes pulled it out by a decision, split decision, that is. Shevchenko obviously disagreed vehemently with it. I did not get a chance. I'm not going to speak about it because I'm not in a position. I did not see the highlights, so I'm not going to say it. And I'm not going to say it just because I haven't seen it, just to say it. But looking at the numbers to me speak that Shevchenko won because he got 33 strikes, 12 of them significance, and 2 takedowns to 4. I think that's a big advantage for Nunes, but at the end of the day, so much respect for both those fighters.
And yeah, the couple things I would say for Nunes, which would probably cater to her, of course, is the control. I mean, she had almost 2.5 minutes of control compared to Shevchenko's 0. And then, like you said, the takedowns, those are emphatic. Mm-hmm. Those are emphatic, and those count for a lot of points. Mm-hmm. So that, I didn't see it, also. So
Yeah.
I don't want to judge too hard, but at the end of the day, we've seen this more than once and more than twice in decisions not being right, and ones that that I've disagreed in a big way before. So it doesn't surprise me. Let's put it that way. And how about you talk about what you were thinking about the UFC?
Yeah.
It's a great transition. at this point.
Transitioning, it was originally UFC 215 was supposed to be Demetrius Johnson versus Ray Borg, but that was called off because of Ray Borg's illness. And then we were supposed to also have Junior Dos Santos fight Francis Ngannou, and that fight was canceled because Dos Santos got caught for doping. And so it left Nunes and Shevchenko, which was not a bad, it's a great main event. Those two are box office. Great main event. The fight, I don't know if it was entertaining. I have to watch the highlights. I'll let you know next week. But segueing to just the state of the UFC, we've asked Mike Goldberg this and John Anik this. We've asked a lot of people about this question. For me, this year for the UFC, it's been not good, Eliav. And it starts because the first fight was the one we went to. Fight night between Yair Rodriguez and BJ Penn. Good card. That's not what I'm talking about. The main pay-per-view number cards is what I'm talking about specifically here. 208 with Holman to Randamy, not good. 209 Woodley versus Thompson in the eyes of the public, bad. In the eyes of the public, 210 Cormier versus Johnson 2. Nobody really cared because they just wanted to see DC fight John Jones. Ducey 211, Miocic Dos Santos 2. Good card, I will give you that. 212 Aldo versus Holloway, good card, I will give you that. 213 was supposed to be Nunes versus Shevchenko, gone. Then Romero versus Whitaker. Good main event, in my opinion. And I love me some Robert Whitaker. He's the truth. 214, Cormier versus Jones 2. Unbelievable. Until John Jones did what he did.
Yeah, no, that truly I felt would revive the year for them.
Me too.
Of course, until that happened. And you see, how many times have you just said already, this person went out for doping, this person went out for an illness. There's people that they set up fights that just don't happen.
And it's also a lot because of the weight cut as well. That's also the tough transition too as well.
Yeah, but
And-
at the end of the day, you got to lock down on that.
You do.
And these fighters have to stay focused so they can actually perform when it comes to the day that they've been training for so long.
And then, we're going to transition to Conor McGregor and what happened with him, this crazy story that's percolating around the news right now. But it also, I forgot, I wanted to throw in Mayweather versus McGregor. Dana White is emphatic, like he's happy that everybody's happy that Conor McGregor went in there and got his money. But you can definitely bet that Dana White wanted him to make that money for the UFC.
Oh, yeah.
And it's in a sense, I think Dana White's frustrated that he's considering boxing and all these guys like Stipe Miocic just wants to go box. It's just, I think Dana White has every right to be frustrated about the year pay-per-view wise. And I think the numbers and just the fact that I've seen almost every card, it just proves that this year has been really, really tough for the UFC in combination with Mayweather McGregor.
I have a question for you, and this might sound funny at first, but do you think that Mayweather McGregor was better or worse for the UFC?
In the beginning, it was better because it gave the UFC a lot of publicity, Eliav. And that's what this whole thing, it started with money. We all knew it was money from top to bottom. But when we look at it now, yes,
money.
exactly, right? But when we look at it now, the fact that it's just, you step back and you look at the pay-per-views for UFC and the fact that they have not done as successful as they can be. 211 was good, 212 was good as well, but they can be better. These are pay-per-view numbers. You have to do better with these pay-per-views if it's the UFC. So in the long run right now, the fight between Mayweather and McGregor is ultimately hurting the UFC, in my opinion.
I honestly disagree. I think that ultimately it would only be better, but that all depends when McGregor comes back.
Yeah.
It all depends on that because people now have realized, the UFC, this UFC fighter, he did pretty good. Okay, I think that the transition of viewers is a big aspect of it. That's why I think ultimately it was better for them. But yeah, as soon as Mayweather comes back, as soon as McGregor comes back to the UFC, that's when you'll really see where they're at because it's your biggest superstar.
And for the time,
So by far. So when he comes back, that's when we'll really truly see where this is going.
But for the time being right now, it's just not looking good, dude. It's just not. That's the way it is. Conor McGregor, real quick before we get to Harley's Hot Topics and social media. Conor McGregor, we just spoke about him. He's in the news, not for fighting, but because he's getting sued by
people trying to get that money from that big paycheck.
According to Brent Okamoto's great article, great cover for UFC on ESPN, the article says, according to the report by The Blast, a security guard named William Pegg claims that he was struck by the Monster Energy can that McGregor threw at the UFC 202 press conference with Nate Diaz. And Pegg, he's seeking $95,000. Look, man, to me, I don't want to make judgments about this. I don't want to be harsh to Mr. Pegg because I'm sure he's a really nice guy and everything, but just the overall perspective from average Joe perspective, it's just like, really, dude? It's a monster. As long as it didn't hit you in the head's where he's going to get the most injuries. But if it just hits you like in the arm or something like that, it depends if you broke your arm. But really, 95 million, excuse me, I keep saying million, $95,000 for this. It just is excessive, man. It's just excessive.
You said it. There's nothing more I could say about that. That's just funny.
It's ridiculous.
And comedic.
And Conor McGregor, we all have so much respect for him, but he doesn't need to be going through this right now. I mean, the man just made $100 million. Leave that man alone and let him bask in the great fighter that he is.
Everything trending on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and more. Get ready for Harley's hot topics in social media. All right, so we're going to kick it off on the Thursday night games. Bleacher Report, probably my favorite Twitter follow.
Great follow.
Had a picture of Roger Goodell, NFL commissioner, smiling, and the caption is 16-0, they said. Obviously poking fun of the Patriots and the whole Deflategate thing. And then someone tweeted at Trent Dilfer, the New England Patriots, let's face it, they're not good anymore. And that's something that Trent Dilfer said in 2014 when the Patriots lost to the Chiefs. And he was basically saying Brady's washed up and they need to blow everything up. And he quoted this tweet and said, "You guys need me to say something idiotic again to inspire an epic run. I got nothing going on. I'm more than happy to help if needed."
You cannot lose games in the NFL and still win.
Exactly.
What does that even mean?
He just feeds it to us. It's like a tee off.
It's too easy.
At Get Nick Right, the new Fox Sports show, go check that out. It says, first pass Matt Stafford throws as league's highest paid player ever was a touchdown, ... for the Cardinals. Well done, Matthew. Obviously presumptive early in the game. And then Bleacher Report again has a picture of, it says, who's ready to get paid? And it's a picture of Odell Beckham raising his hand, finger up because, he is get paid. The Giants offense can't move the ball without him.
Yeah.
And Antonio Cromartie had his 14th child, you guys.
Oh, man.
So Bradley Beal quoted it and said, the kids can play 7-on-7 one day. I thought that was really funny.
It's so funny because it's true.
Exactly. And then we have the polls we ran on the WD show with EG Twitter account.
Yeah.
The question was, which NFL team are you most concerned about moving forward after Sunday? Seahawks got 6%, Patriots 6%, Giants 14%, and the Cardinals won with 74% of the vote.
Go figure.
Not surprised.
35 votes put in on that one, and then we have the fight week tweet. 71% picked Canelo Alvarez and 29% picked Triple G.
Wow. And Golovkin I think Golovkin's the favorite in this fight. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I'll tell you why though. I mean, because he's also Canelo is the more notable name to most people. That'd be probably like an easier way to go. But Harley, good stuff as always.
Harley,
And that
real
was
quick, off the top of your head, who you got? Canelo or Triple G?
I'm gonna leave this one up to you guys' expertise. I'll go with Alvarez as well.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Sweet. Well said, Elliot. Well said there. The Weston DeWitt Show with Eliav Gabay here on Blaze Radio and streaming live on BlazeRadioOnline.com. Thank you so much for starting your Monday with us off on the right note. And we are thinking about everybody on 9/11 today. We hope you have a great, blessed day. We are blessed. And everything in life is amazing. We will see you
oh my
next
God,
week.
so much positivity.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. God is good. Everybody enjoy their Monday. Until then, Eliav Gabay and I are out. We'll see you.
Drinking, smoking, always fat, more than one. Chrome rims, rhino, chronic in your system, let me know.